This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Hi, friends. Welcome to this week's pod, the show for the week of February 10th, 2025, and we're recording this on Super Bowl Sunday, so it's a day before we usually record, and we're not doing a live show this week, but if you're listening to this, you probably figured that out already because it's coming out on Tuesday. We weren't there last night. I'm doing some traveling, and I think next week we're going to be doing the same because Phil's going to be traveling to the Disney World Resort, and we're going to talk about that today. But first, we want to welcome Moon Street, who's now an old member from Discord. Did they join recently?
It's a new old member that had been on but rejoined under a new name to coincide with another Discord or something like that. There's a thing about there, but yeah. So we're dedicating this show to them. So. Okay, it's now Moon Street Show. Thank you for hopping in there. We're going to talk about Epic Universe. We saw there's some commercials coming out, and they're getting ready. Details for your trip, like we mentioned already. And then some construction updates, not many, but we have some other things that we want to talk about outside of your pre-trip report, I guess we can call it. I had this post on the WDW Magic forums about affordability and strategy of a whole bunch of things, all relating to price and cost. And then if you've been following Len Testa, whether on message boards or on social media, he's been planning a manifesto for the last month and a half, 2 months, and he's working with some other publications on it. And it's about the affordability of Disney World for the middle class. And a lot of the stuff I'm talking about happened to be what some of the conclusions. So I'm glad they kind of matched up because I was just kind of talking out of my butt from instinct, and he actually has the data to back up everything as he usually does. So it's an interesting read, but go check it out. If you're listening to this, make sure you go find that. I just tweeted it out or blue skied it out or sent it out on Blue Sky. I don't know what their slogan is like for posting on Blue Sky. What do you say?
What is the verb?
Did you
posting, isn't it?
You blew it? I don't know.
No, we're not going down that road here. Okay, so first, Epic Universe, is it ready to go, Phil? I don't know. Tell us.
Yeah, so I wanted to talk about this for a couple of reasons. One is it seems like there's a lot of small details coming out now about Epic Universe that feels like it's definitely in the home stretch. And I see a lot of, especially the people that are local and have been watching this being built forever, getting really excited because we're almost at May when it's going to open. But they posted out that the team member uniforms, they showed all the workers that'll be in the area for the How to Train Your Dragon area. They're all in their new uniforms. They posted about the new wands that'll be available in the new Harry Potter area, and I think these are like 2.0 versions of the wand, so they should work a lot better and that sort of thing. If you follow Bio Reconstruct on social media, and if you don't, you probably should, he's been posting just nonstop with aerials of Epic Universe and seeing video of the trains testing and all that sort of stuff. And there is a rumor out there that team member previews are going to be starting probably this coming week or shortly, going kind of land by land. So it's not going to be the whole park, but they're going to be testing out, having workers actually as if they're guests there going through, like, say, just Super Nintendo Land or whatever to see how everything's working and that sort of thing. So we're getting in the home stretch, and I think people are getting a little bit excited about it. It's the first, really major new amusement park in North America in a long time, and it's pretty exciting. So
yeah, I'm only worried. I mean, yes, it's definitely home stretch because we're 3 months.
Yeah, it's May 22nd is the opening date. So yeah, March,
so just
April,
about.
Yeah.
And all the overflies from Bio, these seem like they're farther away, just because you still have all the construction vehicles. It still needs to be cleaned up, washed down, and I mean, I'm not looking in major details like a lot of people are, but it just seems like the pavement or whatever, the walkways isn't ready yet. The fountains don't look ready yet, but I mean, they've got plenty of time to do cleanup on that type of stuff. I'm sure all the attractions are ready, but those are within closed doors. We can't really see them. So it looks like it's, again, now that I'm thinking about it, I'm just now rattling off in my own brain, is this kind of looks like what Star Wars Galaxy's Edge looked like like months before opening, right? It didn't look like it was ready until all of a sudden it was like, oh, it's completely done. Like,
Yeah, there's some stuff that I guess can go really quick. I mean, when you think all the way back to like Disneyland's opening, how they were like painting it the night before it opened and stuff like that. So, because even today there was one post about like painting some of the roofs and stuff like that. And you're like, oh, so maybe that's still a little ways away. But I guess some stuff can just get wrapped up really quick. I guess we'll see. There was this footage of in one area they're going to have lights in the concrete, similar to in Epcot. So hopefully they learned from what didn't work at Epcot, and these are a little bit more reliable.
No power washing.
Yeah, there was a video of somebody power washing, and they're like, "What are you doing?" Like, no, you're gonna break it. But just thought I'd put it out there. You know, people are getting excited about it. You're going to see more and more coming out about that, and then hopefully, as we get closer, we hear more about different ticket options and stuff like that. So people that are not willing to do the 3-day thing with 1 day at Epic, and I guess we'll see what other options are out there and what people are going to do.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still looking for potentially getting over there with my trip in July. If I'm not going to do it unless I can do a single day ticket, and the costs aren't obscene, but we'll see. We'll see. But looking forward to it.
The next one was that Disney teased out that Luke Skywalker is going to be appearing in Galaxy's Edge as part of their Season of the Force event. Of course, this is only at Disneyland in California, not at Hollywood Studios. That Season of the Force event lasts from March 28th through March 11th. They only showed Luke like from the back, kind of with a cloak on and stuff like that. So we're not exactly sure, is this going to be young Luke, old Luke, what? But it's kind of cool that they're going to have a new character interactive meet and greet type thing out over there. My one question about this was, it seems like they've gotten a little bit more flexible with the timeline for Galaxy's Edge at Disneyland by having characters from kind of a broader timeline. But they haven't really done that at Hollywood Studios yet. So I don't know, is that something you would want to see them bring in more characters? And if so, how do you think they should do that? Should they just scrap the whole timeline and just say anybody's eligible to be there? Do you separate it and say part of it is with the sequel trilogy, part of it's with the original trilogy? Like, how would you want to see it done if they were going to add more characters from the timeline?
Well, the Mandalorian and Grogu have been in Hollywood Studios already.
Yeah,
I've seen him. So that's what, 20 years or 10
before
years
the sequel,
the sequel trilogy. So they've already done that at Hollywood Studios, I think. But they still don't have like the full on like Kylo Ren comes in and talks to like the First Order officers and stuff like that. So it's still primarily a sequel trilogy. Should they bring in more characters? Absolutely. I don't think anybody's really excited to see the First Order versus the Resistance like timeline. They just want to see Star Wars. I think that's kind of what everybody really cares about. And I don't think, since it's what year did Force Awakens come out? I can't even think. It's been what,
10 years now, wasn't it?
8 years ish, somewhere. I mean, quite a while, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's at the point where I think the average person really doesn't know the difference between the sequel trilogy and the original trilogy timelines. It's only like for like the big Star Wars nerds that probably understand that, like myself, and I think most Star Wars nerds like myself don't really care. They want to see Darth Vader, they want to see stormtroopers, they want to see just characters, right? So they're not in it for the LARPing aspect of it, of that line. So I'm just bringing more people. I think they should add character meals and everything else like that, and have Darth Vader serving me like dessert or something else. That'd be really cool. But I don't really care about the setting of the land. I think they could bring in whatever makes people happy, and I'm not upset about it.
Yeah, I didn't know if they might do it, because I know they have said even as they bring in these new characters, they won't have them kind of interact with other characters that are not from their timeline. So I don't know if it's you sort of separate it. Okay, in the morning it's going to be more of these characters, in the afternoon is that, or in the west side of it it's the old original trilogy characters. On the east side it's the I don't know.
I find it funny that I think Disney is the only one stressing about the continuity of this land, whereas nobody at Lucasfilm is worried about the continuity of their own work based on like how many times they slip in a character here and here. Like, I don't know, that the park ops seem to really care about continuity, and Lucasfilm itself, when it's building out content, seems to kind of hand wave some stuff like, oh yeah, this works, let's go. So
yeah. It probably made more sense, or was more important when they had the Star Cruiser and they had to fit into that story and everything like that. Well, but now that that's gone, who cares? I mean, people love all those video games, right, where you mash up all the characters from different things anyway. So it's like, I think people would just get a kick out of like Luke seeing Rey or stuff like that or whatever. But I don't know.
I think they just get rid of the moniker Star Wars Galaxy's Edge and just make it Star Wars Land essentially, and just have Star Wars stuff in there, and that's it.
Yep.
fun.
I think people like Star Wars stuff. So.
Yes, that's it.
Next topic is I was going to get a little bit more details around my upcoming down and back trip, sort of go through my thought process of things that I was thinking about trying to fit in and that sort of thing, but also trying to have some flexibility depending on how we're doing it. So I thought at the end, and as a teaser, our DBC engagement for this week is going to be like, give me advice. Like if you were in my spot, what would you do? Like, I guess either directly saying, no, with your plan, I would do X instead of Y. Or if you were just doing like a down and back trip, what would you try to fit in? What would you try to get out of it versus a week-long trip or something like that? So,
all right. So what is the structure? How many days? What are our travel days? And then let's build in with what you're actually planning.
Yep. So it's only 3 days, 2 nights. We are traveling down on Tuesday, February 18th. We land at MCO at about 3:15, and then we're there for 2 nights. And then on Thursday, the 20th, we fly out about 4:15 p.m. So a little later in the afternoon. So we have one full day in the middle and then some chunks on either side. So the plan is, when we land there, we'll see how we're doing. We might grab some food at the airport if people are hungry because we're flying kind of right over lunchtime. Then we will Uber to our hotel. We are staying at a Spring Hill Suites on the west, just off property, Disney property on the west side. Get settled and that sort of thing, and kind of see how everyone's doing. If everyone's just exhausted from travel, we might just chill at the hotel, but I'm hoping that we have a little bit of energy, and I want to Uber over to Disney property with the idea of having dinner at the new Wailulu Bar and Grill at the Poly Tower. So that's kind of the whole ultimate plan. So
I like that.
I did ask people on the board, like, can you even just Uber over to the Poly Tower? Are they going to let you in and that sort of thing if you don't have because you can't make a reservation for this place. So it said maybe you can get in, but it's probably safer going to the TTC and walking over. I was also thinking maybe because the way we'd come in, we're actually a little closer to Epcot. I could have them drop us off at Epcot, and then we take the monorail up to enjoy a monorail ride and then kind of walk over. We'll see how we're doing timing wise. But the idea is then to eat dinner at that new bar and grill, which looks really good. And then from there, if we get a good spot or just the beach nearby, watch Happily Ever After from the beach.
I mean, I think that's an awesome. You used to be able to make an effort to watch Happily Ever from the beaches, right?
Yeah, we used to do. Yeah, a lot of times we go to the regular old school Poly and watch from the beach there, get a drink and find a spot in the sand and stuff like that. So we figured kind of.
I don't think. I mean, changing even the where you go to eat, which I mean, that's a good idea to see the new place, right?
Yeah.
I think going to Epcot and then monorailing over just gives you a nice taste of Disney anyway.
Exactly. Yeah.
For free, I guess, right? So I think that would be really cool. And seeing the new hotel, I think that's really fun. I don't think I wouldn't change anything. And if anybody's grumpy, just say, okay, well then you can stay back at the hotel. See you later.
Yep.
Like, you're old enough. Like,
bye, kids.
You're done. See you later.
All right.
I get it.
Then so Wednesday, obviously then we just Uber back to the hotel, and that's at night. Wednesday the 19th, this is the one day we have park tickets for, but it's for the after hours event at Hollywood Studios. So we have the bulk of the day beforehand free. Definitely planning on sleeping in and not rushing things because it'll be a late night. Depending on the weather and what people want, we could do pool time at the resort and that sort of thing. Even just hang out there for most of the day, have lunch at the pool bar and stuff like that. My wife did mention maybe going over to Disney Springs, so we could do that, have lunch there and explore a little bit. And then, of course, my son wants to eat at his favorite restaurant, which is Banana Cabana.
Of course.
So somehow get over to Caribbean Beach Resort and kind of have there. And then I figure we can Skyliner over to Hollywood Studios for the event. So we'll kind of take that day, how much we do, how many places we go, I think by ear a little bit. But those are kind of the thought process for before the event, what we're thinking of doing.
So before we get into the after hours stuff, let's say you can, at the earliest, you're out of your room by 10 a.m., right? So we're basically saying you have time to wake up, you have time to stretch, take showers, do whatever, and we're not rushing anywhere. So 10 o'clock is usually, mid-morning is usually a good time to let's go do a thing. I don't know if anybody's going to be wanting to do pool time at your hotel. I don't know if it's a nice pool or if it's just like a standard pool.
It looks like it's kind of two hotels that they have there share a pool that has like a zero entry area and stuff. So it's probably like not themed like a Disney hotel, but a nicer regular hotel pool.
So I think that is your big wild card, because you might be like, yeah, let's go swimming. It's February. It's whatever. And then you get down there and like, I don't feel like getting my bathing suit on
exactly.
and doing it because I still think the most important thing for you to do that day is to hit up Disney Springs for like maybe 2 or 3 hours, and get your Disney fill, right? Like,
Yep.
Is that a pun? Disney fill. Anyway,
Oh.
and then like maybe do some shopping, get a souvenir or two if that's what you want to do, or grab some food, that type of thing. Like you plan, but you could really get in the Disney vibe with all the Disney music and stuff like that, right? Like
Yep.
I would definitely want to do that for sure. And then you get a bus to CBR from there.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
And then you get your taste of everybody's favorite buses, whatever. But at Caribbean Beach, I don't know if you'll be able to sneak into the pool there. You might be able to if you don't mind carrying stuff and having wet stuff afterwards.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think because you do have to scan in and stuff, so you have to kind of sneak in. And like you said,
I've never had to scan into the CBR
that one?
Beach.
I thought you had to now, but
Not
either way,
it might have changed in the last year and a half. I don't know, but it was just
I don't think we want to have wet stuff with us when we go to the after hours
saying.
event and stuff.
Just
But that's
but you could, granted, you could do that, get changed, get whatever, and you get a locker at Hollywood Studios, right? If you want, I don't know if they're available after hours though either. Anyway, it's probably a terrible idea. But yeah, staying at the pool beach and just kind of being outside, I think is going to be important after kind of getting out of the 10-degree weather in the north.
Which is like the main reason we booked this was just because we like to get away this week because we're pretty sick of the cold by now. And say that as I was just outside shoveling. We only got about 3 inches of snow, but as it was reported, with then a creme brulee layer of ice on top of it. So
beautiful.
Yeah,
beautiful. So I think the one thing you have to consider and make up backup plans for is if you go to Disney Springs, that has enough for everybody to do, right? You can constantly walking around, that sort of thing. I personally wouldn't mind spending 2 to 4 hours at Caribbean Beach, just getting some appetizers, watching TV and whatever, and sitting at the bar or at a table. But you've got 3 kids. Are they going to be able to sit still there for 2 to 3 hours without swimming, without doing anything else? So that's like I think you have to consider that.
Yeah, I don't know if we'll do like 2 to 4 hours or something, but I'd say an hour and a half, 2 hours we can do hang out at, and then obviously there is just walking around and kind of taking our time to get over to the Skyliner and that sort of thing. So I was thinking leave sort of like 4-ish by 4-ish from Disney Springs.
Sure. I mean, you could always do, let's say Disney Springs, like nobody wants to do it for some reason, right? You could always like get over to the Caribbean Beach Resort or any of the other Crescent Lake resorts and kind of do some resort hopping over there, right? Buy $1,000 piece of cake and then share it with your family, and then Skyliner to Banana Cabana, and then Skyliner over to Hollywood Studios if you want to do resort hopping rather than walk around Disney Springs. Like, let's say it's overcast or whatever it might be. That might be an alternative for you. So I think that's the only other thing to consider. But okay, so now we're at Banana Cabana. You've had some dinner or some snacks. You had a couple drinks, and now it's like 6:30. You're walking over to Skyliner for after hours. What's your plan for?
So my hope is to get to the Hollywood Studios entrance by like 6:45 at the latest. You can get in at 6 p.m. with the after hours ticket, but I know when we did the Epcot one, they let us in a few minutes early. Like we were in and online for Spaceship Earth by about 6:52 or something like that. So I want to make sure we're there, a little bit ahead of time. And the plan is the first thing we're definitely going to do is go to Muppet's Courtyard and do Muppet Vision 3D. That's only open till 8 p.m. So we only have that kind of hour window to do that.
Okay.
Depending on how lines and how things work out, maybe we'll do it twice or something, or just kind of try to take in the courtyard area, because that is one of the reasons for the trip is to say goodbye to the Muppets and Muppet Courtyard and that sort of thing.
I would like for you to take some nice video, just like kind of walking around with like a steady camera for like 10 minutes and just like record everything. Because it'd be really cool if you do that. And then you go back in a couple years, 2 to 3 years, you could walk around with detail with your own camera from your own perspective and compare like old to new. I think that might be.
Yeah, I was actually thinking of that's a good idea to do just kind of the whole area. I was going to try to like do some of that and also hit up like in the pre-show some of the funny things in the pre-show element and stuff like that. But yeah, to try to kind of take in the space and then compare it side by side in 5 years or whatever, and sort of see what changed versus what lines up with what and stuff like that.
And I think we always get like pictures from like the bio reconstruct like overhead pictures.
Yeah.
But if we get pictures like from your perspective, I'm sure there's bloggers all over the place be doing this anyway. But I think it'd be cool that you can kind of focus on things that you might be curious to see changing. Yeah. I mean that's what I would do if I was.
No, definitely going to be like I said, it's definitely Muppet Vision, but also Muppet Courtyard as a whole. However we take it in, we'll be spending some time for that. We do currently have a 745 ADR from Mama Melrose. We've never eaten there. It's going away. We kind of wanted to check the box, and we figure we need food at some point anyway. Mm-hmm. So I know that's not necessarily the best use of time when you have an after hours ticket, but we figure
I was
we need
just
to
going to ask. Yep.
So currently, though, the plan is to go and just get like a couple appetizers, split a few things, get a couple drinks, and kind of like try to be in and out within 45 minutes to an hour type thing.
Now, remind me, the official start of the after hours party is when? And when to when?
So you can get in at 7 p.m. The park closes at 9, but 9 is also when Fantasmic is. And then the actual like after hours, like when only people with wristbands can be there, starts at 9:30.
9:30. Okay, that's the time I was looking for.
Yeah,
okay.
so I'm not eating into that time,
That's
but
what
I am
gonna
eating.
ask, yes.
But I am eating into, and so I figure though at that time a lot of the rides will still have like longer lines, so we're not going to want to do them anyway. We could get in things like Star Tours and things that don't carry lines instead, but so we may change this up on the fly if we decide not to do it. But this is currently what we have.
Well, that's what I was going to ask. Like, are you going to be hunting for that ADR that's not for, what was it, 7:45?
Yeah, that's what we have. That we have it booked for 7:45.
Yeah, or are you going to try to drag that down to like 7:30?
I figure like my plan is to do Muppet Courtyard and Muppet Vision, and then whenever we're done with that, go and check in at Mama Melrose, probably a little early, just so we're seated as early as possible. You know?
I guarantee you'll probably be able to sit early.
Yeah,
at Mama Melrose that night. Okay, that's a good plan.
Then it's a little choose your own adventure type thing, because I did poll on my family and say, okay, here's all the things you can do at the after hours. What are sort of must do's? What are things you want to even maybe do multiple times? What are things you don't care about? And of course, there's different thought processes on what people want to do.
I'm reading this and it's
yeah. So some people want to do Fantasmic. Like for my oldest, that's an absolute must do. That's her like favorite thing. My two youngest kids say they want to skip it. So I'm like, okay, I guess we're splitting up. So
I'm on team oldest right now.
Yeah.
How dare you? Matt Bitta would have a riot skipping Nighttime Spectacular. The mulligan for the masses. You got to do the Nighttime Spectaculars.
Yeah. So I was like, okay, we split up. Fine. My oldest and like my wife will go do Fantasmic, and I could take the younger two. And I know.
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Do you want to do Fantasmic, and that's like you're surrendering that to the wife? Or do you not care?
I'd like to see it, but I'm also okay with not. You know, I've seen it a bunch of times, and
Sure.
if there's other things we want to do, so I'm okay with skipping it. If everybody wanted to do it, I'd be fine doing it with everybody as well.
Fair enough.
But I was thinking, my youngest really wants to do Rock and Roller Coaster. That was one of the ones she said I want to do multiple times. That's like her number one thing. So,
okay.
So that could be a good time that we go do that while, Fantasmic is going on. Problem is, my son doesn't want to do that. So I'm like, okay, we can't be in three places. So I don't know what we're going to do.
Is he 12 now?
He's 13.
13. You know what? He can go do something else on his own.
That's what we might do. I mean, he went through some of the rides that are his priority. He definitely wants to do like Mickey and Minnie's and Toy Story Mania and stuff like that. The other thing he's looking forward to is as he puts it, he's like, I want to steal all the food from the carts, because you get the free like included popcorn and sodas and stuff like that. So that's like his number one thing, is to see how many like popcorn things he can eat and stuff like that. So I was like, all right. So I was like, well, maybe what we'll do is we'll just maybe do like Mickey and Minnie's, or one of us will do that once. And then we'll like get him some popcorn and soda and stuff like that, and say, okay, you sit on the bench and eat this while we go do Rock and Roller Coaster once or twice or something like that. Kind of figure that at that point, maybe Fantasmic's over. We meet up with the rest of the family and start doing kind of the other things that are priorities, which is Mickey and Minnie's, Slinky Dog, and the 2 Star Wars attractions. We might get a drink from Oga's Cantina, which is just open for walk up, and you can get things to go and stuff like that. There's a few new drinks we haven't had yet. And then there's usually characters out, but you don't know which ones are going to be there. So we want to kind of scope out if there's sort of any rare-ish characters. We might want to do a character meet or two. But we figure even if like by the time we meet up after Fantasmic, that's around 10:15, we still have over 2 hours with like no lines for anything that we can try to fit in.
So you're going to try to do, are you going to do Tower of Terror while the others are at Fantasmic?
So nobody wanted to do that.
Ooh, interesting.
I did
want to do that?
I like it. I did talk my 2 youngest ones into doing it last summer. So I did do it then. And they basically were like, we're never doing that again. So,
and they want to do Rock and Roller, huh?
Yeah.
Or at least your youngest does.
She loves that, does not like Tower of Terror at all. I think it's more the spookiness of it, like that versus the actual drop element to it. So maybe, I mean, they might even like the Guardians of the Galaxy version out in California more than this one.
Gotcha. Okay. All right. I think you just have to bribe your children. Like, look, I'm paying for this. You're coming with me. I need to go on this ride.
I guess. I mean, maybe we'll see how it is, and if other people want to do it, we have time, we fit it in. But I think just knowing that I did talk them into doing it last summer, so it's been less than a year since I've done it, and I think other things are just like I haven't done Rise of the Resistance in a while. Like that's a priority for me, and that sort of thing.
In a while either.
Yeah, so we'll see. But that's kind of it. So there's that murky part like around Phantasmic where we're kind of going to divide and conquer, and feels a little up in the air. But otherwise, hopefully, it's just taking advantage of the low lines and getting snacks and stuff like that. So that's the plan for the day. We'll see how it goes. Obviously, once it's over, we Uber back to the hotel. Thursday, the 20th, we are hoping to request potentially a late checkout from the hotel, even an hour or so later, so that maybe we could do some pool time that morning, because we don't have the flight until 4:15 or something like that. So we'll just Uber over then to the airport. We'll get into, with our credit card, we can get into one of the lounges and stuff like that. So we'll just do that.
What kind of flyer are you? Are you Ubering over so you arrive at the airport at like 2? Or are you like, we got to arrive at like 1:30?
Probably like 1:32, something like that. I'd say by 2 is probably what we want to do. Like I said, we can get into one of the lounges for a couple hours beforehand, so we'll get some food before the flight and stuff like that. I was debating, like, we have that time. Could we do something like maybe go to like brunch or breakfast at Topolino's or something like that? But I feel like it might just be too much go-go, and we are trying to like kind of do this a little on a budget, and that's not a budget meal. So I was like, I think especially if we do a good amount of time at Disney Springs and stuff like that, I think we'll just kind of that last day just chill and not try to force some more Disney stuff in there where we're going over here and over there. And stuff like
why
that.
spend another $50-$60 on an Uber? Why, like, you just go, like, just relax, recover, because you're going to be out to like, probably you're not getting falling asleep until 1 o'clock in the morning.
Oh, at least, I mean, because assuming we're there to the end of the event that goes to 12:30, and then we have to get out of the park, get an Uber, get back. I mean, it's probably going to be 1:30.
Oh, it's 12:30. I thought it was 12. Okay,
12:30.
So even 1:30, 2 o'clock, you won't be asleep to then. Yeah. So you're going to sleep till like 10. You're just going to relax. You're going to pack. You'll be like, okay, we're ready to go. Let's go. And if you do any swimming, you have to do the swimming and then get changed.
Exactly. Yeah.
So don't try to go anywhere. I'm the type of person when I travel, if I know that I'm flying at anytime after like noon, where I might have a couple hours in the morning, like, to me, that those couple hours is just like, we can't do anything. I'm getting ready to go. I'm not missing a flight. I'm not losing all the money for the flight and rushing. So I'm always the guy that gets to the airport like 2 to 3 hours beforehand, and never just an hour before flight. So that makes me comfortable for you.
Yeah.
This makes me feel good that you guys aren't stressing about that, because I did say to Phil, it's like, well, we're trying to figure out when we're going to record this podcast, probably next Sunday, I guess. Right. And I was like, well, we can't record this as you're driving to the airport, like in the middle of the day. And it's like, no, we can't do that. So unfortunately, we will not get the panicked Phil where his arm is blindly swatting the kids in the back to be quiet, that sort of thing. Okay. I like this plan. This is like a legit down and back that's well executed. You get a little taste of Disney the first day. I really like, getting a little monorail. Maybe take a couple loops around by the time we go to the Poly. I think the only thing I would do is I would go to Epcot to the TTC, and then from the TTC I would take maybe a loop around the monorail, and then the second loop back, stop at the Polynesian, get off there, and then walk over to the new tower. I think
we definitely might do that for sure. It'll definitely depend on how we're doing on timing and what people want to do and that sort of thing. Sure. But yeah.
No, I mean, at that point, like, even if somebody's tired, you're just dragging them. Like, I don't care what you have to deal with it. This is what I want to do. Because they're going to be able to sleep in the next day too. Yep. So there's plenty of sleeping in this whole vacation, which is great. So I think you've really nailed the vacation to vacation. You're not trying to shove another park on your full day there. You have a nice build up until you get there, so you can build the anticipation. It's going to be a lot of fun. You've definitely covered asking all of your family members what they want to do, so you make everybody happy, which is important for when you're only there for a limited amount of time.
Yep.
You guys have already figured out that you are splitting up, and everybody's okay with that. So there's not going to be any hurt feelings. And I think my family is going to be on that path for our trip coming in July. So, I don't think I would change anything other than trying to get into Mama Melrose a little bit earlier, so that's not like impeding any of your tour.
Yeah, I think when I made the ADRs, it was either like 7:10 or something, or 7:45, and I knew we needed to do Muppets beforehand, so that's why I did the 7:45. But like I said, I'll check in as early as we can and Hopefully
Those almost all of those restaurants, unless they're like Cinderella's Royal Table or something else like that, you could always find you a table to get in there early. So I think that might be a good thing to go. All right. So what I wanted to talk about this week was I made a post on the WDW Magic forums talking about, I think this was in, goodness, I can't remember which thread this was in, but we were talking, it was multiple conversations going on about affordability, the Q1.
I think it was in the thread about the Q1 earnings when they came out. Yeah.
So people are always talking about like, nickel and diming, the cost that Disney has this much money. Why aren't they doing this? Or Disney's doomed. They're not making any money. So that being said, I was like, we're talking about, Disney and crowd levels, right? So I've had an ongoing spreadsheet of like average ticket prices, average hotel costs, and seeing like where is Disney quote unquote gouging the people of the world on their costs. And some of it's gouging and some of it's actually not, if you actually take a broader look at things. And this is all in the perspective that today, not 2 or 3 hours ago, Len Testa posted his manifesto talking about the affordability of Walt Disney World for the middle class and the rise of costs and everything else like that. And I think I said this at the top of the show, go check it out. It's very data driven, but it gives you facts that you can, hopefully modify your perspective of Disney. Everything's more expensive, and it's just not that Disney's 20% or 30% more expensive than it was 5 years ago. Everything is like that because it's all about inflation, stuff like that. That being said, my post that I want to talk to you today, Phil, is, where costs are, what Disney's trying to do. Because in the perspective of that, people keep looking at the cost of like deluxe resorts. They're only building DVC and deluxe resorts. They're adding Lightning Lane Multi-Pass, Lightning Lane Premier Pass, Lightning Lane Single Pass, and it's money, 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 and everybody's feels like they're being nickel and dimed. And I don't think they're nickel and diming, but you wouldn't be wrong to say that you feel like that, because that's absolutely a valid consideration on your part. So I'm going to start here where in 2019, Disney peaked in attendance-wise. And if anybody wants numbers, I can start spitting out numbers, but I don't think that's good podcasting. But essentially, 2019 was the highest level of Walt Disney World resort attendance ever, right? And that's combining the TIA reports for that year and adding all the parks together, right? And it was at that peak time between probably like 2017 to 2019. So consider from the opening of Pandora to the opening of Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. That was peak Disney attendance. And if you recall, the number one complaint everybody was saying was the crowds are too high. We're spending all this money, and the crowds are too high. And Disney knows that because their internal scoring, the GSATs that they have, guest satisfaction surveys, said that people were negatively impacted by their experience with crowded parks, right? So I think, people are complaining, like pointing out that Disney's losing out because their hotels aren't as full or something else is not as full. The crowds are not as crowded. I think Disney wants that. I think they're looking for attendance levels of the first half of the last decade between like 2012 and 2016. I think, and that's where we are currently. Hotel occupancy, I think they always want higher, but it's still sitting at 85% right now,
which is very high for the hotel industry.
Right. And again, in 2019, it peaked at 89% or 90%, right? So they're not very far off their inventory. And this is based off of available rooms, and the available room number counts are almost identical with like maybe a 2% difference here and there, right? And that fluctuates every single year anyway. That's noise. So how did Disney achieve this? Well, I think Disney has always been, quote unquote, raising prices. So everybody's talking about ticket costs rising, hotel costs rising, and how crazy it is. But if you only look at rack rates and single day ticket costs, right? Obviously, there's package deals and discounts and all this stuff. I'm not considering those. The value and moderate costs of a hotel have not changed at all, or have not drastically changed at all outside inflationary pressures since 2018. Values have leveled up a lot more than moderates. Moderates maybe have gone up just a little bit more, and maybe like Caribbean beaches more because of like Skyliner type of stuff like that. But anyway,
and this, and just this is supported by what Len just put out, and actually in there he was using the All-Star Resort, and adjusted for inflation, the All-Star Resort is currently cheaper
It's like 5% or something, right?
Yeah,
I think.
than it was in 2018. So yes, it seems like everything's more expensive, but like you said, because of inflation, everything's up. And if you adjust for that, the value resorts are actually a little bit cheaper. The deluxe are way up.
Yes.
But for the value, they've kind of like, I think what your point is getting at is kind of, they've sort of maxed out at what people will pay for a value.
Yeah, so value and moderates are same cost. If you look at the cost of a single day Magic Kingdom ticket, this is not scientifically averaged out. I eyeballed it, right? But the variance of the average is probable, or the median, I should say, the median is relatively the same. It's roughly around $145 to $155 for a single adult ticket. And that has remained the same for the last 4 or 5 years. Now, the cost of ticket discounts as you buy more and packages, that's fluctuated, but just using a single day ticket, that's remained the same since then. Okay, so where do people think that Disney is getting more and more expensive over time? It's some of their foods, but the foods have tracked pretty close with inflation, especially for theme park food, right? I think the average meal for like a quick service is with a beverage is around $19 a person. I know I just spent $16 at a Burger King as traveling on the 95, and it was 16 and change for a burger, fries, and a soda. So plus $3 for Disney World prices versus Turnpike prices is pretty good, I think. But the cost of all the other stuff, the character meals, the prefix menus, all the other stuff has risen quite a bit.
Yep.
Whereas Skip the Line, the Fast Pass Plus was free. Now there's a cost associated with that. And what I think Disney is doing is they're trying to balance out, keep attendance the same as it is right now. I think they're happy with his attendance. I think they wanted to increase once they added capacity over the next 5 to 10 years, right? But we're talking about our baseline capacity now. They've maximized the cost of a value or moderate resort, and they maximize the cost of their per date ticket now, right? Which is probably why you're going to see a lot of more after hour events, so they can start maximizing the clock, right? As more things like what you're doing. So I don't expect over time the value, moderate, and ticket prices to rise any more than inflationary. So you're looking at probably roughly 3% increase every single year for the most part. Where they're really trying to maximize cost spending is by the people that have more money. So the people that consider deluxe resorts, that are considering $6,000 to $1,000 per night at the resort. You're looking at people that like to do table service dining. They're looking at people that don't mind spending money on Lightning Lane Premier passes or Lightning Lane single passes. Because another thing that I've been noticing, or a lot of people have been noticing, is that the Lightning Lane Premier Pass keeps getting sold out at Magic Kingdom. I think it got sold out 2 days ago or yesterday.
Yeah, it was sold out for last Friday. I think it was sold out, and it's already sold out because you can buy it ahead of time for the 13th, 14th, and I think one other day. It's because I was joking about it being sold out at Valentine's Day, and they buy, show her something expensive for Valentine's Day.
So, yes. What I think Disney's doing is, where do they want this money to end up, right? And Len Testa likes to joke that there's 1,000 different ways you can wait in line in Disney World, and I think the actual number is like 9 or something.
Yeah, he quoted nine ways in the article.
And that includes like things like DAS and all the other type of stuff,
and VIP tours and everything like that. Yeah. But yes, there's 9 different ways you can get in line for a ride.
So my line of thinking is, some people are speculating with the Premier Pass being launched, are they going to eliminate multi-pass, right? So I don't think Disney likes having all these different methods to getting on at least the advertised Lightning Lane Premier, multi, and single passes, right? So I think what you might see over time, this is just speculation, obviously, is that as Lightning Lane Premier passes sell out, how can they sell more of them? And then how do they because basically they're going to want a conversion of multi-pass purchasers to Premier Pass purchasers. What is that cost level where they can sell? Maybe Premier Pass goes down in cost, but that allows for more people for multi-passes. So let's say if a multi-pass is like $20-$30, somewhere in that range, a Premier Pass for Magic Kingdom is above $300.
Yep.
So you have to figure, if I could reduce the cost, what is the balancing point of reducing the Premier Pass to multi-pass conversion? So if Premier Pass, for example, is $200 and most people buy that, that's taking up the space of like up to almost 5 or 6 multi-pass users. So if you could get a 5-to-1 conversion at that rate, I think Disney might look to do that because I think that's going to be a better product. They're earning more money, and those other people can then take that money that they were normally spending and go spend it on food and merch, which is also down across the parks, right? In Len's article, he mentioned that in the summer of 2024, restaurants were operating at what, 50%?
He quoted about half full. Yeah,
I mean that was anecdotal. Thank you. Evidence, right? So it wasn't factual, but like they have pictures of like restaurants being half full. At, like,
and I think everyone can attest that used to, stress so much about getting ADRs for restaurants. Back in 2018, 2019, it's so much easier now. Other than prime time at Cinderella's Royal Table, so I don't think anybody would question that the use of table service is way down from in the past.
So one of the things that Disney loves underlying in their quarterly reports, which happened last week, is that while attendance is down or even or flat from last year, their per guest spending is up, right? They always love to outline per guest spending. So they want guests spending more money. And on the value and moderate level guests, which is myself, if I'm not spending money on lightning lanes, they want me spending more money on food and merch, right? They want to capture my money somehow, right?
Yep.
So I think that's what they're going to do. So how can they test these type of things? So what one of the things I'm going to be interested in seeing, and we're going to be seeing this over the next couple of years, I think, is when they offer free dining, those guests that have free dining, are they purchasing more lightning lanes because their food is already paid for? That would be a metric. And if that is something where they're going to see more lightning lane, because the gross profit on lightning lane is nearly 100% because it's a digital purchase, right? Yep. If they could offer you free food for a rack rate discount, we've had those conversations of how that math works. Then if that converts into additional lightning lane purchases, they're going to be like, okay, we're allowing them to spend the money on full price hotels. We'll give them basically free quick service food for that, but then we're recapturing those extra dollars in lightning lanes. And I think Disney would be extremely happy with converting that money into lightning lanes because the costs or the profit margins on that are much harder. So then attesting something that we'll never see, and I would love to see the inside of this. I think millions of people would. Is how would we tell that they're on pace to remove Lightning Lane Multipass? Right. So a couple things that we have to look out for is Lightning Lane Premier Pass selling out more often, and is inventory of the multipass and single passes, are those being reduced? Right. So we would never know because I guarantee you they play with inventory of those things on a daily basis, right? Those are levers that they can switch. So if single passes and multi passes reservations start getting sold out faster in the day, or they become harder to get, or they're selling out sooner in the day rather than later, and premier passes are selling out more often, you know that they're reducing one inventory and increasing another, right? And if the premier pass costs, I think they had like the cheapest Magic Kingdom day. I think I saw that posted in WDW Magic's charts, like where the premier pass for Magic Kingdom was the cheapest it's ever been. It's like on the lower end, and that's one of the days it sold out.
Yeah.
So I think if we kind of like think about this as it happens, like kind of connect the dots a little bit, and it's that It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia meme where he's got these crazy the yarn all over the place. I think we might see the start of the multi-pass going away, and I think Disney would love to be able to offer, here's a premier pass and here's a single pass for all of our newest attractions, right? Single passes are have a great value to anybody because it's a skip to line on a single ride. Like, you know what you're getting it, and that's it. There's no manipulation. There's no tracking. I think people hate having to like refresh and plan and do all this other type of stuff. They want to be like, I got a single pass. I know when I can use it. I'm going to go use it. And that's all they think about. I have a premier pass. I get to go on every single attraction just once. I don't have to plan it. I don't have to schedule it. I just go and enjoy my time. And I think that's what Disney wants people to do, because I guarantee you they have a lot of surveys where they hate having to use the Genie Plus system and now the MultiPass system. So again, I think we're seeing Disney getting to the point where they're figuring out what their price points are. And Len, in his article, mentioned that the top 20% of travelers, or the top 20% in income earners, the top quintile, has just around $8,000 a year that they spend on travel. And Disney wants to capture the most of that, and that's where all the money is, essentially.
Yep.
People that are spending thousands and thousands of dollars. And I think they've optimally placed the value moderate in the park tickets because those haven't fluctuated. But what you'll see is Disney playing with deluxe costs, sit-down table costs, and all the lightning lane costs. And I think they haven't figured that out. That's why those prices are increasing constantly, because they haven't figured out what that balance point is. So, long-winded story. I just think that that there's a lot of interesting things coming to Disney World as they try to actually figure out these numbers. And I know a lot of people, Phil, get sick to their stomach or get angry at Disney for figuring out how much money they can earn from people, but that's how Disney's been doing this for almost 100 years. So I think they're optimally looking to give people the best experience. But one thing I think, Phil, is I'm going to ask you this, is what are your feelings on long and medium term effects of this pricing for the parks? Because Len brought up a consideration for that.
Yeah, he brought up on there, and the one thing I would say his analysis different from yours is that he did see an increase more in the ticket pricing than where you were seeing it flat. Maybe it's just the sample he looked at versus your anecdotal version. One thing I think is there's more fluctuation in the pricing.
Yes.
So like the top days are like way more, whereas the lower ends are probably the same. So depending on how much flexibility you have, it probably impacts you more. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. Just he gets into like, climate change in Florida as a whole and stuff like that. I'm going to stay away from that. But one thing in general, I feel like the group that's probably impacted the most are probably that group that's just a little down from that top earners one, where they have the money and they can up it. That's the one segment we're seeing people spending more money on vacations. But it's the group that used to have their annual trip to Disney or maybe a couple times to Disney, and they're feeling like what they can afford to spend or that same percentage of their budget, they get less for it now, because before, Magical Express was included, Fast Pass Plus was included. These are all extra charges you have. So they can still afford to go, but they feel like they're getting a lesser experience for their money than in the past. They can't do the same trip they did in 2018 for the same dollars now. And I think I'm seeing that negativity come through, and people just saying, maybe I just need to take a break from Disney and that sort of thing. And those were kind of those really reliable families. You still have obviously the Disney adults and the people with the high end that can afford it. And I think people on the lower end that are only doing one every 5 years or once in a lifetime and are doing it on a budget, they, like you pointed out, they probably still can. But it's those ones that were kind of going every year, you're not getting the same experience. And so how do they get those people to still feel like they're getting return on their investment, that they're still getting? And I think simplifying things would definitely help. And, I think just having newer stuff, I think all the new expansions, because now people like, oh, I'm willing to spend that money because now there's all these new things that I haven't experienced yet.
Well, I think that's normal business operations, right? Like I build new things, people come back, right? I think Disney constantly has to be offering new offerings. And
I think they just need to do a really good job. Whereas if people like, oh, well, okay, it sucks, I have to spend a little bit more for Lightning Lane or blah, 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 but that Encanto ride was awesome. Like that helps a lot. Whereas, maybe some of the stuff as cool as we might like Galaxy's Edge, I know a lot of people are like, what's the big deal, that sort of thing. So I think they need to kind of nail it with a lot of the new things. But if they do, like you said, if they build it, people, they will come. So we'll see. But it's going to be interesting to see that. I think that middle group is the ones that's kind of the most on the edge on if they're going to go or not. And then the only other thing is with those top earners, you're competing against a lot of high-end things, whether it's cruising, whether it's going to Europe, whether it's things like that. You really need to deliver a high-end product to get the dollars from those people. Just because they have it to spend doesn't mean they're going to spend it at Disney. So it's good that they have all these offers and they have all these options, but I think also people are looking at like, okay, great, I can do this. I can afford to do this trip. I could also spend the same amount of money and actually go to Europe versus going to Epcot, So again, they need to wow those people as well.
And I think the way they can do that is as attendance, because I think Disney's going to need a few years of data for, full. What does attendance look like in their parks now post-COVID, right? Because obviously 2020, 2021 data is useless for the parks. 2022 is, I think, also useless for metrics only because the world was still recovering. People still had maybe pent up
there's some revenge
savings,
travel and
whatever,
stuff.
all that. So I think like 2023, which is the only year we really have data for it. 2024 is going to be really interesting to see if things have gone down or if things remain steady. And then obviously this year. So I think Disney's waiting for that. And I think the impact of any medium to long term, because again, Parks and Experience, at least domestically, is a cash cow for Disney as a company, and they do not want to damage that long term. And I think the one way to do that is to boost attendance if attendance is truly going down, and that's with ticket deals, ticket costs. Because again, I think people, if they don't want to stay on Disney property, there's always options to stay elsewhere, and they feel like, okay, Disney's too expensive. Let's find an alternative solution. But the tickets are still the tickets, and I think that's the main driver on cost. Because when I want to go down for my family for a week, the cost for tickets are over $700 per person.
Yeah,
and I don't know.
Yeah, they need to do those bundles. I think I referenced it a number of times, but they used to have all those commercials where it was like the mother and father planning the trip, and they were like, "Oh, we can do a week at Disney for $1,600, whatever it was back then. Like, we can do that." Like, you need to kind of have those package deals available that people that are maybe in the middle income group are like, "Wait, maybe we can swing that, and we're getting a lot for our money, whether it's the including dining plan or whatever it is." So.
Yeah, you got to give it again if. They have to see what the park capacity is going to be, what demand is going to be, because I guarantee you that as maybe it's not so much Tropical Americas, but like as the additions to Cars Land and Villains Land and Magic Kingdom, because that's going to be their first huge major impact of new stuff at the parks. Is like, to me, Tropical Americas is going to be great, but I don't think that's going to attract a lot of people as this big new thing, right? Because it's just a redone ride and a brand new ride, right? To me, that's like adding Tron or adding Guardians of the Galaxy, right? It's a new attraction. People expect there to be new attractions every couple of years. Monsters Inc. is the same way. It's just an additional attraction. But Cars Land with Villains, you're totally expanding Magic Kingdom. This is a massively new experience for people. And if that doesn't draw people, like you don't see a spike like you saw a spike for like Pandora in 2017 going into 2018, I think Disney might not panic, but start readjusting some of their costs. But unfortunately, that's 3 years away from now. We're gonna see things. So I thought this was very interesting as far as just kind of taking a step back into a lot of these things and figuring out where is Disney increasing, why they're increasing, where the quote unquote price gouging is coming from. Just because, and I always say, just because Disney has an offer that you can pay for something doesn't mean you have to go and buy it, right? Yeah. So, like, a lot of people like to point out Lightning Lane and FastPass. That's a whole nother conversation for another day. In any case, go read some of those articles. I think they're interesting to read. Just, I think it's important for people that are Disney fans that are used to planning a trip every single year, or they haven't planned a trip in a while, that as long as you have a baseline information of where your money's going, where it compares to the rest of the marketplace, that you will probably find that the Disney World is not that much more expensive than anything else. However, the cost of a Disney World trip is now equivalent to a lot of other options that are out there. And that's where Disney, I think, is losing a lot of people. Like you said, it might be cheaper to go to Rome than actually go to Italy and Epcot. So.
Yep.
Okay, so let's go real quick right into our construction updates. Not many, so we can talk real quick about this. I want to make a correction to our last week's show. So for some reason, when I read that Sebastian's is going down for a refurb, I could have sworn I said from March to like the end of May, which would have been like 2 weeks or 2 months. It's actually like 2 weeks in March. It's like the middle of March to like the end of March. So correction on that. There's probably just some normal refurbs that you do on anything. So don't expect anything fancy. So I apologize for the mistake on that. That being said, a couple different things. The Astro Orbiter, if you take a look at pictures now, it's completely gone. I think the only thing that is left is the rings that kind of hold the planet.
Yeah.
Like the actual ride system itself is completely removed, which kind of surprised me. I don't remember seeing any pictures when I did some research of it being fully removed 10 years ago in 2014 when they did a full refurb on this attraction. So, again, I don't expect anything different. I think that's just kind of normal for what they want to do. The Scrims are back in the Plaza restaurant off of Main Street. I believe they were on there prior to the fall last year, I want to say, but I could be off on that. But they were up there sometime in the last 8 months, I think, I want to say. Yep. In Animal Kingdom, there's now full demo and changing permits for the Tree of Life to move over to the Zootopia show. So that's going to be there. And of course, we learned that Tough to Be a Bug is closing on March 17th. We could have had a little segment for Tough to Be a Bug closing, but I think we were all kind of expecting it.
Yeah.
It's not a huge loss to the park because it was never full and everything else. We talked about this a little bit last week.
Yeah, just
now we have a date.
Definitely didn't prompt me to do another down and back for that, but I am glad that we I did make sure that I did it with the kids' last trips because we figured that would be the last chance to do it. So glad we did it. Looking forward to something new.
Yeah, we did that a year and a half ago on December of 23. So for sure. So I didn't know what I did. Oh, I just clicked on a link and it went in the wrong place. Yeah, that's it. I think I didn't update my hotel sheet, so there's no updates for this. So those are all the construction updates. And then, again, reminder about its social media, at the DBC Pod on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube channel, and, of course, Blue Sky. I'm the most prolific on Blue Sky, so if you want, you can find me on there as well.
Yep.
All right, so DBC engagement this week, Phil. Surprisingly, not that many people chimed in until I started posting a bunch of giant lists, and then we got some kind of conversation. But this was Drew the Disney Dude's idea, the top 3 franchises for the parks in Walt Disney World that have not been there yet. Meet and greets do not count, so something that's substantial. Phil, do you want to go over ours first, or do you want to see what the community was talking about?
I figured let's do the community, and then we can just kind of add on ours of anything that didn't get mentioned.
Sure.
Yeah. So from Lumpy, he said he wants to see Up. I think that would be a couple people mentioned that one. That would be a good one for if they ever expanded Tropical Americas or somewhere in Animal Kingdom. A couple people also said about Mary Poppins. I think that's what happened too. Somebody suggested something, and then other people are like, "Oh yeah, that'd be good. I want to see that." So they didn't necessarily always do their own list. I think a lot of people are still hoping that Cherry Tree Lane comes back. That whole plan for Epcot at some point. And then he said this might be a stretch. Is that he wants to see Chitty Chitty Bang Bang in the parks, which if there's ever a Chitty Chitty Bang Bang attraction in Walt Disney World, I will definitely give Lumpy a $2 coin or something like that because I can't imagine that ever being there. Wheezy, real quick and sweet and to the point, wants to see Mulan, Up as well, and Coco. There's always the rumors about Coco coming in. Mulan kind of stuck out to me just because that is one you don't see a lot about. I mean, I know they do some things in the parade and like in the China Pavilion, stuff like that, but you don't really see too much about that, like people saying there should be a Mulan attraction or something like that. Doxy just had 2, Mary Poppins and Up, but also said maybe a Bambi themed playground for the little kids at Animal Kingdom. And I think this is where Mama 6 pointed out that there's a lot of references to like Bambi and Pocahontas and some of those underrepresented properties in the concept art that had been shared for Reflections. And so we're kind of hoping and thinking maybe some of that'll stick around for the new Lakeshore Lodge property. Tom Servo was the last one he mentioned. Wreck-It Ralph has already had 2 successful movies. Incredibles is another one with 2 successful movies, and we know a third in the way that has some presence over in California, but not in Florida. And similar to that, he mentioned about Big Hero 6 that he would like to see have representation. I know there's people talk about doing something with the Old Wonders of Life Pavilion. You could have some stuff with Inside Out and also some stuff with Baymax from Big Hero 6, but we'll see. So I don't know, were there any other properties that you specifically wanted to see that haven't gotten mentioned yet?
So I basically went on essentially all the Disney movies from with the exception of Little Mermaid. Let's say Mermaid was what, 88, 89?
Yeah.
So everything from like 1990 and on are severely underrepresented in the parks, which is amazing to think about, right? The last 30 years of great movies don't have nearly as much representation as you think they should or they would. So I just went on to the Wikipedia and I got a list of Disney animation studio properties and I highlighted a few. I'm just going to list them. Beauty and the Beast, right? They have a story time, they have a restaurant, but they don't really have much of anything else unless you really want to consider the movie in the French Pavilion or France Pavilion. Aladdin is not represented anywhere, and I think I'm ignoring the spinner ride. And
I was going to say there's the carpets and the meet and greet, but that's about it. Yeah,
that doesn't count. There should truly be a dark ride, especially since that the animated show led to a lot of like cartoons that also led to a live action that actually did fairly well in the movie theaters versus the Little Mermaid one that didn't do as well.
Yeah.
The Lion King is extremely underrepresented outside of the show that they did.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really want to count shows, but like there should be a Lion King attraction somewhere in the parks. I mean, what are we doing here? It's a Broadway show. It's movies. Mufasa, which everybody thought was going to bomb, I think is just under $700 million.
Something like that, yeah.
At this point. So, I mean, there deserves to be an attraction there. I have Pocahontas. I don't know if that's would ever have an attraction, but that's kind of on the lower end of things that they have. Hercules, Mulan, Lilo, and Stitch. Even though Stitch did have an attraction at one point, that's no longer open. I think depending on how good the new movie this year is, we might start seeing some of that.
Yep.
Tangled. Like, how does Tangled not have an attraction at this point? That to me, that's absolutely nuts. You could just see some of the popularity overseas in some of the other parks with that reception. Zootopia, we're getting a show, but we might see a land depending on how well the next movie does later this year. Moana definitely needs an attraction after her second movie just hit $1 billion. So I think Disney's like, okay, it's fantastic first movie. It basically propped up Disney Plus numbers for quite some time. The merch is through the roof, and then we just had another $1 billion movie. You could totally see that coming. And then Encanto, which doesn't have a traction rate, it's being built, but I think there's a reason why for it's being built because it deserves it. But those are my list of things. I mean, you asked me for a top 3, I gave you like 8. But those, just to give you an idea of popular IPs just from Disney Studios that are not in the park. So you have a wide selection of things to choose from. And I think you probably heard like things like Lion King and Moana probably deserve attractions before anything else. Attractions, not shows. A couple other things. Incredibles and Coco, even though those are on the West Coast and other places around the world, they're not in Walt Disney World. I think they deserve some things, but out of the other Pixar thing representation, I think that's it. And I don't think you can include things like Marvel and other Star Wars things and stuff like that because it's tough to do that. But they're already in the parks, Guardians of the Galaxy, that type of thing. But what about you, Phil? Which ones have you picked up?
Yeah, I mean, you hit on a lot of them, or the group did. I think Tangled. Obviously we see that in Japan. Always like people always armchair imagining because there was supposed to be a river ride in the Germany pavilion. It'd be easy enough to do that, but theme it to Tangled. The only other one I haven't seen mentioned that I think could make for a cool attraction. I feel like I picked all the movies based on the soundtracks I like. But is Tarzan.
Somebody brought up Tarzan in that. I don't know if it was Wheezy or somebody, but they brought up Tarzan. Tarzan would work. I was thinking about like Tarzan's Treehouse in Disneyland. It's already there. Type of thing.
That's there. I mean, there's been a Tarzan show and stuff like that, but I don't know, like that. Just the way he flies through the trees and stuff like that, I think would make for a cool. And like I said, that would have great music and stuff like that. But otherwise, I think the other third I put was Big Hero 6, which has been mentioned before. I mean, that just. I don't know. It had Disney Plus show. It's had comic books. It has stuff like I think it would just make a lot of sense to bring that more into the park. Where even if it's maybe not the biggest franchise from a dollar return standpoint, the merchandise and everything I think would do really well and just make for good attractions.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think we're going to see a lot of more quote unquote modern IPs being showcased at D23 in 2028. I think so 2 D23s from last year's, which will probably maybe Blue Sky or start promoting the back half of the decade of expansion at the parks. So that should be what year is that? That's 2028. So 2027 Tropical Americas should be up and running. Cars Land should be almost open. And I guess we'll probably get details for Villains Land and potentially some other attractions that are coming along this way. So we'll see. All right, Phil, anything else that we remember? Okay, of course, remember the DVC engagement.
Yeah, DVC engagement. So next week is advice for me for my trip, or like anything you would do differently, or make sure I do time for, or just if you were going to do a down and back trip like this, where it's mostly just to get out of the cold for a couple of days, what would you do on a trip like that?
Matt, if you're listening, what is the predicted mulligan for his trip that he's going to go? I think you got it lined up perfectly. I don't think there's anything else you could really do unless you really wanted to exert yourself or spend a lot more money. I think those are the other solutions there for that. But I think you're doing a good job with that. All right, guys. Thank you for watching and listening this week. Next week, there will not be a live show as usual because Phil will be getting ready for his trip. And we do not want him recording mere hours before he has to wake up and scramble the family to go. So we'll be recording next Sunday. Maybe we could consider a nighttime live show on a Sunday because tonight's the Super Bowl, so we're going to be. I don't think we could compete well with the Super Bowl, Phil. With our
that would be impressive if we had a our biggest show ever during the Super Bowl. Maybe we'll just live stream watching the Super Bowl.
That's it. There you go. But in any case, everybody, thank you for watching. Listen, make sure you hop on Discord and lend your viewpoint to the conversation. We always appreciate that, and we'll see you next week.
Take care, everyone.